Let's move on and talk to Kevin in New York. Kevin, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
Hello again.
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
Doing so well. I've got the warm fuzzies, man. It's a good day. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I was going to talk about something called Planet X. I don't know if you've ever heard about that theory.
Little bits and pieces. Why don't you give us a brief overview for any listeners who don't know?
Well, Planet X is something, well, the whole X, I guess, refers to as the 10th planet, but even that's a general misunderstanding of it. Because I've come to understand, amongst other people, that this whole Planet X thing it doesn't really describe it because it's more like a mini constellation being led by a different star. And if we do our research, we can find out that there are different classifications of suns out there in the universe, but this particular one would be classified as a brown dwarf star, and that it has an orbit in our solar system of 3,600 years. But I was going to get into how I believe that that proves the existence of God.
So you're saying that a planet that's been observed revolving around a star proves the existence of God?
Well, just to kind of give my understanding of it, it hasn't actually been observed. There's just mathematical evidence to suggest that it's there, correct? So nobody's found it yet. It's just based on calculations, we can assume that it might be there.
So, yeah, I'm willing to grant the assumption because I have no idea how that gets us to a God belief or claim or evidence.
Well, it's hard to explain because it seems like there's a lot of varying information out there, but
let's try and be succinct for this.
I'm sorry?
Oh, you said there's a lot of different evidence, and generally in a conversation, we'd be able to kind of parse through each of the pieces. But because this is a call-in format, let's try and, bring it together the best we can so we can kind of tackle the topic.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is that it actually has been observed, but it's very difficult to observe it because since it's a brown dwarf star, it can only be detected by satellites who are searching the universe by means of infrared technology. But
so let's just skip forward. Okay, let's grant it for the sake of this conversation that this planet exists. Who cares?
Okay. Well, every time it comes around on its very large orbit, it gives evidence to a personal God that is not only influence that has an influence on us locally, and that every time it swings around, it's responsible for massive Earth changes, such as massive disasters or a sudden continental shifts. And
so let's take this in two ways, right? First, let's grant. First let's not grant, and then let's grant. So in not granting, what I'm going to say is, let's look at the data that you're presenting, right? Let's say that on every rotation of this planet that I'm granting you exists, every time it rotates, something crazy on Earth happens. How did you rule out coincidence?
It's not coincidence because not only does the Bible talk about it, but a whole lot of other things that.
Well, why are you shoehorning in the Bible? We never talked about the Bible. Is the planet shaped like the Bible? Why are you bringing in the Bible?
Oh, because there's a prophecy of that very same thing in the Bible.
I was raised a Christian. I don't remember a planet around a brown dwarf star being a thing that was prophesied and that its rotations caused natural events to happen on Earth. What verse is that?
It's in the book of Revelations. It's
I'm looking it up.
Part of okay. Planet X isn't obviously called Planet X in the Bible. It's actually
obviously.
Why not? Hold on, why not?
Because it came through knowledge of what effect it was going to have, and so it was given a different name. But,
so,
wait, God didn't know that it was Planet X?
Yeah, it seems like your God would probably have a good idea, wouldn't he?
Well, Planet X is just our term, but in the Bible, in the book of Revelations, it was referred to as a star called wormwood. But there's a whole lot of other cultures out there which actually do give it different names. But,
okay.
So people have named stars. This sounds like, what was that? What was that movie? Someone had an obsession with a number, and they found it everywhere.
Numbers? I don't know.
No, not numbers. So I'm happy to tell you, Kevin, that we as humans are pattern-seeking creatures. It's what we do. It's how we survived. It's built into us, and it's something that we are going to continue to do until you can find a causal link other than other people think things too. Then it's not convincing. Right. I had a conversation on my personal channel with somebody who said something similar to that. Right. So they said there's a prophecy about stars. If you exchange the word Ark of the Covenant with this planet, and if you exchange other thing that happened with, it's like, okay, if you change the definitions of words, you can make them whatever you want them to be. But at that point, you have completely lost all credibility, because why the fuck would I care?
Right. How do you know that wormwood is this Planet X and not some other star? What is the correlating factor for you?
And why are you changing the definition, period? Why is wormwood? I don't get it, dude.
Well, we have to accept the fact that there are other planets on the outskirts of our solar system besides Pluto. And they're given the scientific term trans-Neptunian objects. And that goes a part of this so-called Planet X system I was talking about.
Okay, so I understand that we call things different things in different cultures and different times. I'm not going to quibble with that. My concern is, how do you know that this wormwood thing, which honestly, I learned about wormwood as a Christian who also believed in the apocalypse, and that it was going to happen before I turned 21 because my dad didn't want to see me go to college, that wormwood was actually something completely different. So how did you come to the conclusion that wormwood is Planet X? What is the correlation there?
I knew that wormwood is Planet X because of what the Bible says it's possibly going to do when it goes around.
Wait.
Because
can you give us the verse, please, so we can look it up, so we can actually know what the Bible is saying in this instance? Because I don't have that off the top of my head.
It's I can narrow it down. It's a part of what was listed in the book of Revelations, which is supposed to be the story of the end of the world, I guess you could say. And
wait, do you not have a verse for me?
No, I don't. I can somewhat paraphrase it. It was saying that an angel came down from heaven or something like that, and it actually refers to a star. It says a star called wormwood, and then it directly refers to its effects on the earth afterwards. But it was listed amongst what was supposedly God's wrath on the earth during the last days.
Okay, I think I've got it. Revelation 8:11. The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. Another one says, and the name of the star was bitterness, and it made 1/3 of the water bitter, and many people died from drinking bitter water. How? Am I missing something?
Well, I mean,
Okay.
even though it's described as a star.
Okay, here we go. A star fell from the sky. Can stars fall from the sky? The answer is no. Right?
Well, remember how I said that I'm sorry. Remember how I said that it's a brown dwarf star? Well,
can stars fall from the sky?
No, they can't.
Okay. Do you believe that stars can fall from the sky? Because it says so in the book.
No, I don't.
Well, so how come you're focusing on one part and not the rest?
It's describing it that way because on it, given that its orbit is very elliptical, I guess you could say, that when it comes to the inner parts of our solar system, it takes on the characteristics of a comet that has a tail. And so it's the debris field of that star that is describing.
That sounds like a stretch, dude. If you can get better evidence than a cherry-picked piece out of a verse that you wouldn't accept. Stars falling out of the sky, just the way I understand them, is people mistook falling debris from space, to call them falling stars, but they weren't actual stars. Stars are giant gaseous bodies bajillions of light years away. And if one hit the Earth, we would all die. We would all die a lot sooner, way earlier than it hitting the Earth, because we just would have burned up.
Bitter water would be the least of our problems, let's just say.
Yeah, and you're also talking about angels sounding trumpets. We're not convinced.
So does Planet X turn water bitter? Is that the thing that it does when it comes around?
I can only suppose that, but
and there we have the problem, Kevin.
Well, I'm not trying to change the subject, but there are a lot of things outside the Bible and admitted facts and ancient history from all around the world that have the same account. Like, for example, in ancient Egypt, they called it the planet of crossing, or the Native Americans called it the red or the blue Kachina. And there's many examples like that.
Why do I care?
Because it's all talking about the same thing, and its effects are.
How do you know that? How do you know that? How can you possibly draw a line from ancient Egypt to ancient Hebrew to indigenous people in North America? I'm assuming to Planet X. How are you drawing? It seems like one of that meme of Charlie Day going crazy in front of the string map. Like, that's kind of what this seems like to me.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the origin of many ancient cultures saying that there were massive disasters in which everybody thought that the world was going to end.
Okay.
There was this outside
disaster. Okay, so far the correlating things are cultures existed. Many of them had disaster stories, and many of them talked about planets.
And many of them mapped the stars and had different names for them.
That's everywhere. That's everything. Why is that interesting, apart from the fact that cool cultures had cool stories?
Well, for the argument that there's a God involved is that, time is.
Hold on, stop. Kevin, you can have one. I'll give you one. Either the God is involved or you're going to cherry pick shit out of the Bible, but not both. Because what you're doing is, if you say, if there's a God involved and my evidence of it is the Bible, well, congratulations. If God exists, then God exists. And if the Bible is evidence of what's inside of it, then cool story, bro. You get one. not both.
Well, the problem with it that it can't be dismissed is that I'm not just using the Bible to come to this conclusion.
You're bringing up a whole bunch of, I mean, so it's other cultures saw stars and charted them and named them. Who cares? That has nothing to do with your claim. All it is obscuring the fact that you don't have evidence. Or actually, sorry, I'm using the word evidence wrong. It's really bad evidence. Right? In the same way that what's in my fridge right now is really bad evidence for what you're wearing. It has nothing to do with the other. It's just bad evidence. Anyway, if you can get to a nice cohesive line where those things, one, leads to the other, maybe why we should open the Bible in the first place, why we should get to that chapter in particular, and why should we pick one thing and then change its definition so that it fits your narrative and leave all of the other shit out because we don't want to have to justify it. Not only is it inconsistent, but I have no reason to follow you there, and neither does anybody else. But if you can get there, call back, okay? Cool. Bye, Kevin. All right.
I'm just curious if he's changed his minds on Ouija boards since the last time we talked.
Was that the Ouija board guy?
That was Ouija board guy.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I ended that too soon. Damn it. V, you sent me a link to somebody who was reading.
Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could take credit for that. That was holy Kool-Aid.
Oh my gosh, that was my roommate. I've got to find that video. That was really damn good. Yes, I got heated because at a certain point, navel gazing for navel gazing's sake is not interesting.
Also, it's not, I can guarantee you, especially with the number of times that Kevin has called, that's not the reason he believes in a God. And that's not what he considers to be. If we disproved conclusively that Planet X had anything to do with Wormwood or any other of the planets that he brought up, then his God belief, I guarantee, would not change. So why bring that kind of evidence anyway? I mean, it's cool if we want to talk about it over a beer, like if we want to hypothesize about shit, that's fine, I guess. But like to try and bring your best evidence and have it be something that probably is not a founding pillar of your belief, then I don't really see the point in arguing about it, honestly.
I just, if you've got to change the definitions of words to be completely different things to back up wacky claims, you lost me. You just, that's not how any of this works. That is not how we understand the world around us. That's not how we discover things about the world around us. That's not how we get technology. That's not how we, pursue a rigorous methodology that's replicable. Because if that was a replicable methodology, then I could change the definitions of words to mean whatever I want them to be, and those would be true.
I'm going to change the definition of theist to someone who doesn't believe in God. So officially, Kevin is now an atheist.
And so is everybody else. That was the end of our show. It's been a good career. So I just, it's just entirely uninteresting to me. Anyway.